So we're back with the good take, guys. So today is the day of recording of this is the 23rd of August, the day that they released the teaser trailer for the Snyder Cut of Justice League. I should point out as well that we are only joined by Marcus today. We have relegated Chris back to the good bad take zoo. Say hello, Marcus.
Hello, Marcus.
Good stuff. Quality humor as always. So we're not going to necessarily talk about the teaser trailer. We probably will, but that's not the main focus of our discussion today. What we're discussing today is a tweet that Zac Snyder made in response to someone basically panning the Snyder Cut teaser trailer. Now, Zac Snyder has said, and this is the tweet, "You said you enjoyed the theatrical cut of Justice League like you enjoyed your Saturday morning cartoons. Well, this is made for grown-ups, so you're not in the demographic. Also, cool of you to comment on a leaked teaser." Anyway, so what we're discussing today, I suppose, is firstly the good, whether that was a good/bad take by Zac Snyder, and also maybe a general discussion in regards to like where comic book movies sit and just general, like these general blockbusters that they have, and like, are they for children, are they for adults, does it actually matter? So I'm going to throw it over to you, Marcus. What do you think on this?
Well, I actually thought this was a interesting topic for you to bring up when we were sort of batting around ways to monetize the Snyder Cut. Because the other day I actually struggled to think, because I was thinking about like the idea of maturity in artistic endeavors and stuff. I couldn't think at first why I was, but then I remembered what it was. I bought some video games for the Nintendo Switch, which is a console by Nintendo, usually associated with like kids games and stuff.
I'm glad Nintendo, you explained that.
Sorry?
I'm glad you explained that for all the people who may not know what a Nintendo Switch is.
Yeah. But I bought Luigi's Mansion 3 and one of the Paper Mario games. And I was thinking about how, you get these people who, there's the big game argument about maturity as well, like whether a game which is like, PG rated or, well, they're not PG, 7 rated, I think it is for kids, or whether, something like GTA is for adults. So I was thinking about it from that angle as well, which I suppose is a very similar argument as well, because they're like blockbuster games and everything. So I just wanted to throw that in there. I was actually thinking about this just this week, actually. But to answer the immediate questions that you put, this is a very bad take, because I think what it does is it confuses the idea of something being gritty or hardcore or any other sort of lame, poochified version of saying something's got swears and violence in to be mature, basically. Like the concept of maturity is supposed to be, I would say, grounded in some kind of like wisdom about the world, or you've had experiences that inform you to have a sort of different take on the world than somebody who is possibly younger. And I think that the thing that people get confused about there is that you have to be of some age, I suppose, to have had some kind of experiences. So older people do tend to be more mature. However, there isn't a direct correlation between being older and being more mature, because you may never have had the experiences that lead to maturity, potentially. So I think that that's already something that's confusing. Just having like a bunch of swears and violence and sex in something doesn't necessarily make it more mature than something else. So, you know, for example, like Watchmen has got lots of violence and nudity and swears in it, but I wouldn't say it's more mature than something like the Studio Ghibli canon, which I think has got lots of truths in it that you don't get in a Watchmen film. Just to compare two things, which one would seem to be for kids, they're all U-rated and they're animated, and one's like an 18. But even to go from the terrain of just sort of comic book films, you know, I don't think Marvel is any like less mature than DC, just because Marvel is more colourful and is, well, I suppose they're both 12 rated. Which gets on to actually the second point we're talking about. Are they aimed at kids specifically? I would say probably not, just because they're mass market stuff that has to make like $1 billion. So it has to appeal to everyone, basically. I think that DC more self-consciously tries to aim for maybe like late teens or something, people who want to appeal edgy and cool, and you know, oh, I don't like those Marvel films because they're not mature enough for me. I prefer it when people get blown up after giving a jar full of piss. That's the maturity I like it. Well, Marvel seems to be more aiming for, you know, it's for everyone basically. You know, kids can go, but they'll be brought by their parents and grandparents who will enjoy the time as well. So that's sort of a wide-ranging answer to it that covered quite a lot. How do you want to respond to that intro?
Yeah, no, look, I agree with you. Like, I would say that with a majority of Snyder's films, they are, I wouldn't call them mature at all. Like, they are, I think personally, you know, he makes films for like edgy teen boys, basically. Like if you think about any of his films, you know, they're even going back to like Dawn of the Dead, and that when he made the remake of that is just like, there is nothing mature about that film. Like he actually like strips out all of the a lot of the like sort of, you know, the original like sort of meaning and like thematic stuff from the original, and then just replaces it with like puerile garbage. So like, I don't, you know, I find it like rich coming from him talking about like how he's making a film for grown-ups. Like, this would be the first time in his fucking life that he's made a like film for grown-ups. You know, and it does go back to what you were saying about like, there is a difference between, you know, having a film with like sex and nudity and swearing and stuff like that in it, and something that is actually mature. And you that example you gave of like you know, Studio Ghibli films and that, for example, like Grave of the Fireflies, that's a like incredibly like mature film. Like that that's got a lot of stuff in it that you know, would fly over the heads of like most children, and probably even some teenagers, to be fair. So I think that, yeah, I agree with you that it's sort of, he is confusing here what he's like sort of trying to say. I would also sort of say that like this tweet sort of like talking about like his previous filmography and that sort of thing, like this tweet smacks of like insecurity about his work. Like and I feel like that he's reacting, like this is a knee-jerk reaction to that idea that he just makes films for like teenage boys, like edgy teenage boy films, and he's like, no, this is mature and grown up, and yeah, but it's sort of just gritty nonsense. But yeah, I definitely I if you didn't guess, because I didn't say it before, I think this is an incredibly bad take. I would also say that in regards to like the way that we actually like you were right in regards to like the way that who basically these films are for, and I think any PG blockbuster is made for everyone. It's made for anyone to go watch, and it will be fine. Essentially, there is no grown up, children's film grown up. It's one of the things in regards to like Star Wars. So, I think it was Patrick Willems said that Star Wars is a movie about space wizards for children, and he's right and he's wrong in saying that. Like it's a movie about space wizards made for everybody. And it's the same thing with all of these films. But then you can like if you talk, then you get into like the R-rated superhero films, like your Logans and your Deadpools, which is actually a really good example of a film literally made for grown-ups, because it's like R-rated, that is not mature. It is probably the least mature film that has ever sort of been made. So yeah, I think that like what he needs to do is actually sort of examine what he means by these sort of things. Like what does he mean by like grown up and like mature and that sort of thing. I don't know. Do you have any?
Yeah, definitely. And it, as you say, it gets to that central idea that really stupid people have, which is that, well, it's actually interesting that you bring up like the edgy teen and stuff, because he is sort of the perfect edgy teen filmmaker. Because edgy teens are people who tend to be quite self-conscious, and it's the edginess is usually, I don't want to go too psychoanalysis here, but it tends to be a mask, doesn't it, to hide sort of deeper insecurities and stuff, or it's trying to appear cool to hide a lack of confidence, or it's trying to create like a peer group around sort of being edgy and cool, rather than I'm not one of the mainstream kids who doesn't fits in with everyone and stuff. So it's trying to do something like that. Like he definitely has the idea. He's got that aura, Zac Snyder does, of being someone who it's like, well, I'm not making those Marvel films that appeal to everyone. I'm making real stuff for the people who want something real out there, rather than this mass-produced stuff that the Marvel stuff does. It gets interesting as well, because I think his films are really strange, because DC gave him sort of carte blanche for Man of Steel, and then Batman v Superman, and then Justice League, which he tragically wasn't actually able to finish, because I don't know if you knew this, his daughter died while he was making it. So then Josh Whedon had to go over it. So I definitely, there are people who, relatively smart people who defend the his DC films on like auteurist grounds as well, saying that he's actually making like art and stuff rather than the Marvels. Yeah, that's my reaction to it as well. They're saying that like because he's got a strong directorial hand, it's of more worth than the Marvel stuff, because that is mass produced. And I think that they're interested. I think that people who do that as well fall into a similar issue as the mature people, where they think that just because it's got somebody's guiding hand sort of over it's inherently better than something which is sort of mass produced, which I would disagree with. Give me something made by a craftsman any day. It's good over like some self-indulgent twaddle and stuff by him. I mean, have you also seen that video by Movie Bob, ironically, considering that we did him last time, where he tries to we just like the 4-hour takedown of Batman v Superman?
No, I haven't seen that actually. That seems like a lot. That I might get around to watching that, but yeah. I actually there's a series of and it's only partway through a series that Maggie Mae Fish is doing in regards to Zack Snyder, which I think would probably be better than Movie Bob going over his stuff for 4 hours, which sort of does talk about like the way he, the way he constructs films and that sort of thing, and like gives like deeper readings of like, what he's doing and that. And I think, I think that's probably, a really good sort of place to start if you're wondering about Zack Snyder, because I think a lot of the stuff that she said in that I find myself agreeing with, because it's like, oh yeah, he's he just seems to think that sort of this idea of things being, edgy and that sort of thing is mature, is for grown-ups, and it's just not. It's he also has like a really interesting sort of, like, he almost has like a sort of I suppose like Randian view. Our good friend Ayn Rand. He almost has like a Randian view of society.
I was going to bring that up actually. Did you? Yeah. He is actually a hardcore Randian, and his dream project is making an adaptation of The Figurehead. And in that Movie Bob review, he actually talks about how the Fountainhead. Sorry, not The Figurehead. I've actually seen the film version of The Fountainhead, so I should have known that as well. But he talks about convincingly as well, actually, that Batman v Superman is basically a remake of the Fountainhead, using them as analogues to the characters in that. And I can actually see that yeah, he is definitely he's called himself a Randian, so that's not just something that you've intuited from the films. That's actually something that he is and is proud of, which probably shows his lack of maturity.
Yeah. Okay. That's weird. Yeah. So okay. That's nice that has actually been confirmed. I'm not like stupid for thinking that. But yeah, it is weird that like with that in mind, like, he did make that remake of like Dawn of the Dead and stuff like that, and it sort of seeing as that was a sort of very sort of best sort of, you could say it was anti-capitalist, but mostly it was sort of like anti-consumerist, and this sort of almost doing like the opposite with the film. But yeah, and I think that plays into, though, like the whole Randian thing, I think plays into like his ideas on like what is like, edgy, and what is like cool, and and then all that sort of, and what is mature and that sort of thing, because it very basically because anyone who thinks Ayn Rand is like worth listening to are essentially teenage boys. But I just think that it's sort of interesting that sort of plays out in his films and stuff like that. Maybe this is his what's the other one called? Atlas Shrugged.
Atlas Shrugged's the one, yeah.
Yeah. Oh no, it is the Fountainhead that I was thinking of. Maybe this is his like Fountainhead moment. This is why he can't let go of the can't let go of Justice League. Why he has to have his own cut of the film, which is something I find really weird. Like, you'd think if he was actually being like a mature adult and a grown up, if you will, he would have just sort of walked away from that project and just gone, it is what it is, I'm done. But he seems to be like very focused on like making his own, his own thing. I don't know how much he's pushed for this, and how much of it was like actually, how much of it was actually like, maybe HBO coming to him and going, well, let's make this. Do you know at all, or?
I don't know, but I assume what it was that it was relatively fan generated. Like, I think people were demanding it, and then they probably both saw that it would be a relatively easy way to make a shit ton of money. Like, I know that they spent about 20 million on this project. They'll make that back, I think, insanely quickly and stuff. So I think it's more that the fans demanded it after the terrible... Have you actually seen Justice League, by the way?
Yes.
What do you think of it?
It's garbage.
It is garbage.
It's like, yeah, it is. Like, there's some like decent stuff in it, and like, you know, I think the biggest issue is that it is, and it was bound to happen when you had Zac Snyder doing, and then Joss Whedon comes in to finish it off. Like, it is tonally all over the place. But it had some good bits in it, and it was fine. But like, it was just, I've not gone back to watch it, which is telling, because I went back and watched Batman v Superman. So I watched Batman v Superman, and then the longer cut came out, the director's cut came out, or the ultimate cut, or whatever it was fucking called, and I watched it, and it was slightly better. And that this I won't even watch. I'm not even gonna like. I am not curious enough about the Snyder Cut of Justice League to like submit myself to that, because it's gonna be like 4 hours or something like that. It's insane.
Yeah, well, it's going to be 4 hours, and I am actually relatively curious to see how they actually do it, because there is no actual... It's not footage that they can integrate into it, is it? They didn't actually film some of the stuff. It was obviously, we were saying Joss Whedon took over. So are they just going to use CGI? Is it going to be like rehearsal footage that they're going to try and get up to the standard of the rest of the film? That interests me on how they're actually going to do the project. But the film itself it's got nothing about it that would appeal to me, to be honest. So I don't want to actually watch. I'll just watch a sizzle reel on YouTube of like the worst moments that they've tried to put in. Yeah, I can't imagine they're going to integrate any footage into it well at all. Like, I reckon it'll just be like CGI backdrops into it and stuff.
Yeah, well, it was my understanding that all of it had been shot. Like, it had all been shot, but like a lot of the stuff had been. Like, there was tons of stuff that there'd been no so it was like shot on a green screen or something, and then there was nothing rendered into the background or anything like that. So there's like a ton of like green screen footage that they could use basically. But anyway, I just don't think that like it's worth it. I don't know that there is actually like a good movie in there. Like, I can't look at it and look at the films that came before and that and go, there is definitely a good movie in Justice League, because I don't think there ever was a good movie in there.
Well, as everyone said, they fucked it up basically, because they didn't give enough introduction to all the characters like Marvel does, where they have a film each and stuff. So there's not enough groundwork there to actually, as you can see within the film, and also in that hilarious bit in that's such a funny bit in Batman v Superman, where Wonder Woman just gets the email which has like little JPEG videos that introduce each character. Yeah. But yeah, there's no way that... I mean, I can see why it's 4 hours to try and give a little bit of backstory to each character and stuff, but it's too ambitious a project to do in one film, I think, is the main issue with it. And also the other issue with it is it's kind of funny within the actual trailer where it ends with Batman going, you may have fought everyone else, he's not fought us united. The problem with the film is that it has a weird thing where it's about them coming together, but then at the end of it, they just have to give it to Superman because he's way stronger than everyone else combined, and he just has to defeat the monster by himself because no one else is power enough to do it. So it has, I think, fundamental issues that... I mean, they're kind of crap characters, I think, in a way, because like Superman can do everything and is like an immortal god, and the rest of them are maybe 100 as powerful as him. So I think that there's problems inherent to that as well, which the film fucks up basically by just as I say, just having them give it up to Superman in the end. It's a bad project, I think. I think it would be hard for anyone to do it well, but Zack Snyder, I think, is the worst person to do it because of his because of how he makes films, basically.
Yeah, well, like people who sort of know comics and stuff like that. I'm not a huge comic book fan, and that like they will tell you the like best like Justice League stories are when Superman is like has been taken out of the equation for whatever reason. Like so when he's not in it, the story's better for that exact reason. He's just like he is the answer to every problem. Like what the thing to do would have been to like keep him dead for most of the film, like maybe bring him back in like the last 20 minutes of the film, and have these guys sort of try and overcome and blah 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 blah. But yeah, they just again like the scene where he comes back in the Justice League just like perfectly highlights like why having him in the film is a bad idea, because all of the rest of the Justice League together couldn't subdue Superman, so they had to bring in Lois Lane. Like, like if they can't like subdue him, like what's the point of these people in the film? Anyway, we're getting into like we're getting into the nitty. This is becoming a review of Justice League.
The original concept of Justice League was actually that it was going to be in 2 parts, and then the cliffhanger to the end of the first one. So that would have actually been 4 hours, but it would have been 2 films, or maybe even 5 hours. The conclusion of the first part was going to be a cliffhanger where Superman wakes up and he's angry, and then the second one I think would have begun with them trying to subdue him. I mean, again, to get to another problem with Justice League and why I think it's a stupid project is that the Superman thing, because he comes back so late in the film, halfway through or something, he has like one scene to change him from being angry to normal again. Like, there's nowhere near enough actual time spent to make it believable that he would become like the Superman that everyone knows again. But yeah, I think that they actually must have realised that, because that was originally what they were going to do, make it 2 films. But it's just a bad project that was ruined by things outside of the creator's control, I think.
Yeah, I think as well, though, it's like the setup to it is also like awful. Like, because the characters in it, like Superman's an awful character in this universe, Batman's an awful character in this universe, like, and they're like your 2 mains. Like Wonder Woman, she's like decent as a character, but it's like she's sort of also like kind of blah. Like there's nothing really interesting about her. So yeah, I just think that like you've got what's that then, like half the team is like is just sort of, and then you're introducing these sort of new characters and that. I wonder if it will be like sort of seen differently though, like with what's it called, Aquaman having come out, because it came out after Justice League, didn't it?
Yes, it did. Yeah. A year after, yeah.
Yeah, so like I wonder, whether that will like sort of change people's, because that character's been kind of fleshed out a bit more. That's one thing I will say about Aquaman. It's not a great movie, but it's a really fun movie to like watch, and like at least stuff happens, and like not everyone's a sort of dour, terrible human being. There's actually a bit of fun in that film. So yeah, but I suppose it might be a bit like sort of whiplashy though, going back to having seen like Aquaman in this like fun sort of adventure film, then like whiplashing back to Snyder's view of Aquaman and him being like this dour, horrible like person. I don't know. It's weird. We'll see what happens.
It's interesting that you bring up the dourness of it, though, because that's actually quite interesting. And I think another way that to talk about the maturity thing as well, like, I think that what people definitely confuse as well with something being mature is dourness and a general air of sort of miserableism and stuff. Like, I think that it's not any more mature to say that the world is all terrible and everyone in it is miserable and everyone in it's out to screw everybody else out. I don't think that's any more of a mature proposition than the idea that, like, you know, that there's everyone is super good and out to help you, and, you know, like the way that, like, I don't know, a kids TV show would have it and stuff. I think that they're sort of inverse ideas of the same thing, because I think in all, like, actual maturity and stuff is obviously it's shades of grey and ambiguity and stuff, isn't it? Like, it would be a film where I don't know, Superman is as morally ambiguous as General Zod in the who's the villain, obviously, in Man of Steel and stuff. So, but I think that that's a thing that loads and loads of stuff does. I think Game of Thrones is quite nihilistic as well, and I think that's to its detriment as well. Because that's something that obviously a lot of people also think is. I don't want to get into a massive, because we can talk about that for hours and stuff. But I think that a lot of people mistake sort of just a general nihilism for being mature as well and stuff, like a world is hell viewpoint, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think that you know, it's true. It's like this idea of that it's like gritty realism and stuff like that, and it's like but it's not. Like, real life is not like that. Like, real life is not for some people it might be like a constant slog, and you know, everything is awful, and we call those people doomers. But like the majority of people, like, yeah, there are good times, there are bad times, there's like sort of ambiguity and you know, not everything's clear cut. You don't always know who the like good guys are or the bad guys are. And, you know, that is what that's what realism should be, is this idea of not everything being sort of clean cut, as you said, shades of grey, and stuff like that. And yeah, I would agree with you. I suppose one of the things with like Game of Thrones, though, is that it's sort of it at least has some sort of depth to it. That's what I would say, is that there is at least, you know, something, there is some meat on the bones with Game of Thrones, you know, which gets less and less as the show progresses. But I don't think that there's anything like that in any of these films, especially these DC superhero films that have been helmed by Zac Snyder. There's not really, there's sort of I don't know, an idea of a sort of depth. Imagine if depth was salt. It's like they've just done like a light sprinkling of it, and then that, you know, there's just no I don't think there's like anything to them. There's this sort of like facsimile of depth, like, you know, the idea that you know, Superman is you know, he's not sure, you know, whether he should be helping people or not, and blah 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 blah, and like that's something that can be sort of explored, but it's done in these films in like the most nihilistic way possible, like that, you know, and it doesn't really add anything to it, like, you know, that there is something that can be explored in what he's trying to do. I don't think Snyder has any idea how to do it. That's my take from it. Yeah,
well, I think that all comes back down to that sort of Randy and Randian viewpoint and stuff. Really, I mean, I think that there is some. There's sort of some depth that you can see. It's interesting to talk about like the Zack Snyder films because he's at least trying to do. And I can see why some people like latch onto them who've maybe more serious critics or something who do it because they think that there's interesting ideas that play with his films and stuff. But I don't think that makes them better fit. Oh, this gets into the weird stuff about like what we were talking about last time between thematic stuff being sort of I think they're interesting stuff to talk about more than they are to actually watch and stuff. And like I think there's a good example of the thematic thing that he attempts to do is Man of Steel, which I'm sure you've watched, where the ending of it is that he has to kill Zod, and Zod sort of wishes it on himself. He's like, I'm going to kill these people if you don't kill me. And then Superman like snaps his neck and stuff. Like that is handled so laughably and badly within the film, but you can see what he's attempting to try and get a bit moral sort of ambiguity going within the film and stuff. So I think that what the films do is they bring in like ideas and concepts and stuff, but they don't sort of flesh them out or do anything with them. Like in Batman v Superman, like the opening of that as well is that Ben Affleck's running around after the events in the first one, and it's supposed to be like 9/11. And I think what the films do is that they just sort of reference things that would be deep in other films, or just have like, this. Look at this, we're referencing 9/11. Isn't that edgy and deep? Whoa. But they don't actually move forward with any kind of conclusion about what to think about them or ideas behind them and stuff. So they ultimately fail there and stuff.
That's what I was getting at with like the idea of like a facsimile of depth. Like that's what it's like. He has got like, he sort of understands what other people do in films and he tries to copy it, but it's like really poor and it doesn't quite work out and that sort of thing. So that's sort of where I was getting with that. But I think, like just to wrap it up, because I think like anyone who's sort of sat here for the last 40 minutes probably wants to know what we think about the trailer. Marcus, what did you think of the teaser trailer?
Well, it's just an assortment of random images, really, more than any coherent thing. This is just fan service, basically. It's got the song "Hallelujah" to let the fans, you finally achieved it. You've got your Snyder Cut. I mean, as I was saying, I won't be watching it. Or if I do, it'll be out of morbid interest to see how badly they've managed to cobble something coherent from it and stuff. But it's a strange. Nobody needs to see this. Everyone who has already made their mind up whether they'll see it, whether they won't. People who wanted the Snyder Cut will probably love it, even if it's terrible. They'll just invent reasons to defend it and stuff. So it's not something I'll be interested in, and the teaser doesn't really flesh out anything that I would be interested in either. What did you think? Yeah, no, I agree. It is sort of like a I don't know. I would say like a home movie slideshow because as I've pointed out, it's in 4:3 aspect ratio for some unknown fucking reason. It might be like the only thing that I can think of, because I think IMAX is in 4:3. But, like, that doesn't make any sense either for, like, what it's on. But anyway, that's beside the point. But, yeah, it just seems like a sort of slideshow of, like, this is what you will see in this film, set to a horrible cover of Hallelujah. I don't even know whether that's the original. That's the original, is it? Jesus Christ! The original's terrible. It's like set against the. Most people know the Jeff Buckley cover, which is in a standard sort of folk version. The original is this horrible jazz version with these. You should listen to the original because it's absolutely terrible. And I really love Leonard Cohens stuff, especially 70s stuff. But that is it's unforgivable for the song itself. It's unforgivable for the covers that it's brought about. Yeah. So I was aware that the Jeff Buckley version was a cover. I'd never heard the Leonard Cohen version because everyone said it's terrible. So I was like,
there's no point. Now I've heard it and I understand why. But yeah, I think it's sort of like, and I think just going back to the tweet, I think the first line of the tweet that he was responding to covers it perfectly, which is, so that trailer for the Snyder Cut of Justice League looks like ... the same movie ? So yeah, it does. It just looks like the same movie, and there's nothing new. Like, you'd think for a teaser trailer they would like add something new, and I think there was maybe one scene that I saw where the Flash saves a woman in the street. That wasn't in the original, but I'm not even entirely sure that wasn't in the original because I don't remember the film that well. But yeah, it just sort of, as a teaser trailer, I think it fails because it doesn't really show what will be different, particularly with this film. And it is just the song choice and like the aspect ratio and all that, just all sort of weird components that are, I don't understand. Possibly the only reason they did it was to get people talking about it, which has worked, I suppose. But, I feel like people would be talking about it regardless.
Yeah, well, I find it a weird odd project as well, because I do genuinely think people have already made their mind up about this and stuff. So I don't think there's even any point in it really existing in a way, like, because like the Snyder Cut people will love this anyway and stuff. And the people who don't like Zac Snyder and don't like Justice League aren't going to be won over by it now suddenly being 4 hours and potentially more like Man of Steel and thingy anyway and stuff. So yeah, it's a bizarre project and stuff. I was just going to close out though, just with with a quick thing. What are we on, about 50 minutes or something?
42.
42. Okay, so that could sort of summarise the teaser trailer. What do you think of, and this goes back to the maturity thing, there's a critique of Batman and Superman, the characters. It goes all the way back to the 30s and 40s and stuff, that they are sort of inherently conservative, reactionary ideas. And some people say superheroes in general, because they sort of assign society's problems to being able to just one person can beat up bad people and solve everything by themselves, that they're like that rather than collective solutions or grassroots stuff or because you think about it's like, especially Batman is the sort of worst one, I suppose, because he's literally just a rich guy who goes around beating up criminals and that's how it sort of solves society's issues and stuff. And I think with Batman it's interesting because I think there's a case to be made that The Dark Knight Rises, to be back to a film as well, is like maybe the most right-wing mainstream film to come out for decades. We could get onto that maybe separately. It might take too long and stuff. But what do you think of the critique that they are inherently reactionary and conservative ideas?
Yeah, I can see that as a sort of I can see that as a sort of a take that you could have of them, but it's also they are essentially fantasy stories. They aren't supposed to they're not supposed to be real life. So what I'm getting at is is that, yeah, I get what you say they're saying, or you're saying, about it being one person sorting out the world's problems and stuff like that, but the framing of that is that this is a fantasy. This is not something that exists in real life. We know that one person can't just sort of solve all of our problems. Well, not everybody knows that, but I think that generally speaking, we know that it doesn't, it's not just one person that will solve anything. I think probably the one where that sort of does fall apart a bit is Batman. Batman is a bit of a problem. He's a problem child, being that he is a billionaire, and his reaction to the crime problem is to go beat up criminals rather than using the vast amounts of wealth that he has to actually improve the lives in his city, in the community, and like people have pointed out that he does both. But like the thing is that like when you look at it specifically, like with Batman, it just gets worse. Like nothing ever gets better in Gotham City. It just gets like, and that is, I suppose that that is partially also the nature of comics, is that like you have to have this sort of escalating threat to continually sort of make the stories interesting. And but like what that has the unintended reaction of is going, well, his idea of like going out and beating up criminals just makes things worse. He doesn't sort of really, use his wealth to actually improve things in the city, and things just get worse. But yeah, in general, I don't necessarily think that superhero stories are like necessarily sort of reactionary or right wing or anything like that. I think they're sort of, again, you can look at them, you can have that reading, and that is completely valid reading of them. But I think that generally speaking, the framing of superhero stories, as this idea of it being a fantasy, is sort of what sort of counteracts that, if you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think that, as I say, I think Batman is, as you point out, slightly different because he is actually just sort of like a real life. There are like real life analogues to people like him, and he's not an alien or a there's not actually anything special about him. He's just sort of a regular rich guy who goes around doing it. But yeah, Superman, where he comes from Krypton and stuff, and but I think that all the other ones are it's a bit of a ridiculous critique. Again, as you say, it's a valid reading, but not something that I think would inform like why you should or shouldn't engage with it or anything.
Yeah, but and you sort of also look at like if you're sort of saying that like this idea of like sort of individualistic action and that sort of thing, but then you like look at like the way comic books happen as well, and this is just the function of comic books, is that you have these stories, but then like ultimately there is this big thing that they all have to come together, and that's why you have the sort of like the Infinity Wars and the Civil Wars and the Crisis on Infinite Earths and all that sort of thing. Like that sort of thing falls to pieces, like when you then have like when you have something like that. So it's sort of, on one hand, it's saying that these it takes the individual to fix these problems, but then it falls apart when you have these sort of big crossover events that they have, where they all have to come together and like each contribute to overcome a problem. Like how does that fit into the narrative then? Like it kind of does.
Yeah, and I think in the real world as well, if there were threats from alien beings, I wouldn't necessarily say no to a alien being coming down on our side just because it wasn't left wing enough of a proposal.
Oh well, it depends what they wanted. We'll protect your Earth if we get to take it over. It's like, oh, okay, I suppose. But I think that it's sort of like if you wanted a like real life sort of analogy, I suppose it's sort of there are people who are sort of specialized and have special skills and whatnot, and then they may sort of excel in their own field and that sort of thing, and they may be quite good, but no one is perfect at everything, or no one is expert in everything, and so they sort of need help from other people. And then it's the same sort of thing with superhero stories, is that they're they handle whatever they can, but it's not always the case that they can handle something by themselves, so then they have to rely on other people and get help from others. Anyway, I think that's stupid.
Yes, so I think we've handled everything now. So next week we'll talk, is Scooby-Doo reaction error, because the villains always turn out to be the groundskeepers and the butlers.
Roll. All right, that's all good. So we have you got your check from Marvel?
No, I haven't. No, have you?
Oh yeah, I got mine in the mail today. That's why we're making this.